This is a tutorial on how to use Excel for your written assignment. So let's start again by looking at the Excel program. And the first thing you'll see is the screen here once you open Excel. Each rectangle here is called a cell. And for example, this cell here is going to be cell B for the column and 2 for the row. So it's going to be B2. Right? And what I want you to do is download data onto this software package and use the data to calculate some macro data. Okay? So let's start by going to Google, for example, just a web browser, and let's go to St. Louis Fred. Right? And this is one of the websites I've indicated that you can find the data to do your assignment. And here is the Federal Reserve Economic Data, Fred, from the St. Louis Fed. We'll click on this, and once we click on this, we'll have this search box. And here you can type in whatever variable you're looking for, whatever data series you're looking for. And let's say I'm interested in looking at CPI. So type CPI in the search box and search for that. Here's a list of variables. I'll choose the consumer price index for all urban consumers, all items, and I'll click on that. Once I've clicked on that, I'll go to my left hand side and look at download data, and I'll click on download data, and this screen comes up, and I'll adjust from monthly to quarterly here. And I'll leave the aggregation method as average. So I'll leave it as is. And I want to modify the date. It's from 1950, quarter 1, to 2014, the last quarter. So we'll end at 12/31/2014. And the file format is Excel, of course. And seasonally adjusted is fine. So once we've done that, we'll download data and open with Excel. And here's the downloaded data. What I like to do is immediately after downloading, I like to label them, because once you start downloading, you might get confused as to which variable is which. Maybe I'll center it. Yeah. And now the neat thing about working with Excel is that you can do calculations, right? And we can create the series for inflation, for example, as inflation, and we know from class that inflation in year 2 is equal to inflation in year 2, CPI in year 2 minus CPI in year 1 divided by CPI in year 1. So we can do that, translate that into Excel. So I'll start by pressing the equal sign, and this tells Excel that you're going to enter a function, right? So we start by pressing the equal sign, and we're going to start with newest CPI for this particular cell. So we're calculating the rate of inflation. Right here at D57, we're calculating the rate of inflation for the second quarter of 1950, right? So we'll start with the CPI in second quarter of 1950 minus the CPI in the previous period, which was the first quarter of 1950. And I guess we'll have to enclose that in brackets, right? And we'll divide that by the CPI in the first quarter of 1950, okay? And we'll enter that. And remember that the formula, as stated in class and in the book, we'll take that CPI in year 2 minus CPI in year 1 divided by CPI in year 1 times 100. And that gives us a percentage inflation rate. Here in Excel, we can either multiply this by 100 or we can click on the percentage style icon here. And this is going to give us a percentage. And if you want a more decimal places, to get a more precise number, you can come here and click and this starts moving it to further decimal places, right? And I guess 2 decimal places is fine. Once you have that, you can come over. You're interested in creating these series for inflation all through the different periods, right? So we can come here over the just recently calculated cell, and we can click over the bottom right corner of the cell where that cross or your cursor turns into a solid black cross, and you can double click your left mouse button. If that doesn't work, then what you can do is you can click the left mouse button, and while holding it, drag down the mouse all the way down. And what this is doing is copying that formula you entered in that first cell all the way down. And you let go of the left mouse button, and you would just see the computations come up. And this is the series for inflation. Okay. So we go up. And let's try and plot this, right? So what we'll do is we'll press Insert, and you go to a line chart. You can choose any of these. I'll just choose the first one. And you'll have an empty box here. Over the empty box, right-click your mouse and click on Select Data. And this box will come up. And we want to add a y-axis. And this y-axis name is going to be inflation. And the series values is going to be, or are going to be, this whole column of the series of inflation you just calculated. So you hold the left mouse button and drag down and press OK. So now you've added the y-axis. Now you want to add the x-axis, and we're looking at this variable inflation across time. So you would want to add the time variable. Actually, I'll have to go up. And here's the date, right? And we'll select, we'll select the entire thing here by holding the left mouse button and dragging down. And maybe I want to delete this. Maybe I don't want to include the date here. And I press OK, and we can look at the results. And here's the plotted series for inflation. Yeah? Okay, so that's plotting one graph. Now, the next video, I'll show you how to perform other computations on Excel. Maybe I'll do it here. So, using Excel, you can add, subtract, divide. So let's say I want to add 2 series, right?